superintendent of the Catholic schools, Dr. Juan Flores, joins us now. Good morning, Doc.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
We're gonna do this in English or in tomorrow?
Let's just chum English. Doc, so what's you guys are on break next week, right? For Holy Week?
Well, the schools are. There are no classes next week. That's correct. Everybody goes to church every day.
Right. And so we I guess we'll just start with GDOE is looking to increase face-to-face learning, kind of getting to a place where you guys were able to get to already. And so when we look at how it's been working for the Catholic schools with face-to-face, I mean, my son's going every day. What are the takeaways that you guys have to offer the public school system?
I think, first of all, I think you've got to get the parents on board and convince them that the schools are going to be safe, because we're up to maybe 85% of the kids now being in school. And I think that's because the parents believe that the safety measures are in place. Kids are practicing social distancing, which has now been reduced to 3 feet instead of 6 feet by public health, and that there are precautions being taken, still checking temperatures, washing hands, sanitizing the schools as often as possible, keeping in the elementary schools, keeping kids in cohort groups. We have some alternate class schedules for the high schools because the classrooms can't accommodate all students, but that might change after Easter because of the change now in the social distancing rules. But I think for the most part, getting parents on board and paying attention to the fact that most of the kids want to come to school.
Is that what you're seeing now that the social distancing protocols have changed from 6 feet to 3 feet? That the schools are now opening it up and allowing more students to come in?
Well, actually, in the elementary schools, the K-8 schools, we didn't really have that many students who weren't coming to school. Mm-hmm. And because that new ruling from the public health has been recent, we haven't really changed a lot of things in the schools. Mm-hmm. We'll probably let things go until, obviously, it's at the end of the day today, go through the break, and then the schools can revisit their protocols. But I think the practice of still being socially distant or practice social distancing is still pretty important. This week, the vendor who got the contract for sneeze guards has started to deliver to the schools. At least at one school, they got their sneeze guards for the cafeterias, and hopefully, maybe by the time Easter break is done, all the elementary schools will have sneeze guards for the desks. Okay. So we can sort of open things up, maybe while the kids are eating. Obviously, they don't use their mask, but there may be activities in classes now when the kids don't have to use their masks because of the sneeze guards. We also know that the HEPA filters that we've ordered for every classroom are now on island, and we're just working with DOE now on the distribution of those. So, you put all those things together and we're creating safer environments, and hopefully we'll convince families to send all the kids to school and make the most of the rest of the school year. But we've only got, depending on the school schedules, maybe 7 or 8 weeks of school left. So I hope all of that works for all the kids.
So you say 7, 8 weeks of school left. So what are you guys working on or planning for next school year? Because we hear a lot about GDOE, and granted they're a lot larger system, and they're planning and forging ahead with the new school year. What are the Catholic schools doing?
I haven't heard anything from any of the schools that lead me to think that we would not go into face-to-face right as we open school. One of the things we're trying to get a contract going right now for social and emotional learning training that will probably take place in the summer for our teachers and our school staffs. I think we're looking at some of the other procurement issues. One of the items we've put into for the ESF2 funding is to get electronic textbooks. So we don't have to bring textbooks home, and which could easily bring viruses home or bring things from the homes to the schools. So, we put all these measures together, I think we're going to continue to create a safer environment for the students. But my guess is, I don't want to speak for all the principals, but unless something drastic happens, I can't imagine that we won't go into full face-to-face as we've been doing every day at the beginning of the school year.
You mentioned ESF2. What is the status of that? You guys sent it in to what, USDOE?
Yes,
Right.
and just last week, all of that was approved. The accounts have been set up. I went in and signed all the assurances, which, is just to make sure that we follow all the requirements. So that means we're going to start. We're working on requisitions for last fiscal year's consolidated grant, which are due this week. Starting on Monday, I'll start working on the requisitions for the ESF2 and try to get almost all of those done by the end of April. And then it goes to the procurement office at DOE. So we're praying that their efforts will get some of those things through as quickly as possible.
Preferably before next school year?
One can only hope.
And what was the deadline to spend the ESF2?
I'm not sure, but I know that I've been encouraged by the Federal Programs Office, maybe more than encouraged, strongly encouraged to get our requisitions in so that we could send a message that while this is supposed to be for emergency needs of the schools because of the pandemic, that we really are acting like it's an emergency. And so that's why we're gonna try to get the requisitions in, and the Federal Programs Office is encouraging us and supporting us to do that as quickly as possible. So I know the school principals are tired of my working with them, I think, on requisitions, because it's a challenge. It's a lot of work on their part. It's a lot of work on our part in the office. But, the benefits of these funds, I think, are going to pay off. So we're looking forward to that.
And speaking of funds, aside from, the governor and her $660+ million in direct appropriations from the American Rescue Plan, is there anything else in that American Rescue Plan that you're looking at that you guys might be able to tap into?
I've actually put in to the governor's office for some items that were not included in ESF and were not part of our consolidated grant. And so they're considering some of those. I just heard from one of the mayors the other day that they might turn to some of the Catholic schools to establish some summer programs that they're going to get funding from the governor's office. And I think if that's going to be amenable to the schools, I think we're going to participate in that. If I get some guidance from the governor's office that there are some things, they've led me to think that some of the expectations, the requirements in this third waiver funding are going to be a little more open. And so if we think of some things, the one thing we've got to consider is we're not going to get this kind of funding again for a long time. It's kind of like ERA funding at the beginning of the Obama administration, right? Those only come once every so often. I don't hope for any more COVID-like funding because I don't want any more COVID. But while we have it, I'm hoping we'll take advantage of it and try to build things up in our schools. And I think based on the recommendations from the schools, based on the efforts on the schools, I think that the funding right now through ESF is going to make a difference in our schools.
Summer school, Catholic school's going to be offering summer school.
Yes, and some of that is actually going to be funded by ESF. So it may be that we might have summer programs in the schools that parents don't have to spend money on or spend a lot of money on because most of the expenses are going to be paid from the ESF if we can get that going as quickly as possible.
And is that going to be face-to-face, the summer school?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Definitely. Okay. Especially when we know we're going to have the filters. We know we'll already have the sneeze guards in place. The situation on the island is going really well. Most of our teachers have been vaccinated. I think there are a lot of conditions in play that might allow for the summer school face-to-face. And again, summer school could be a little bit of catch-up work academically, but maybe we could do more in terms of athletics, in terms of sports, in terms of music and art. so that it'll be a little bit of fun for kids and have more sort of typical kid interaction in the schools. So it's not just working on your devices, it's actually interacting with each other.
Doc, what about graduation ceremonies?
Some of the schools have started to talk about it. We probably, at the least, will consider and check in with public health to follow some of the same procedures we had last year. We probably won't have to have necessarily the drive-through graduations, but like at Father Duenas last year, there was a very organized indoor graduation where the graduates and their parents sat in a little, 6x6 taped off area. If they're in churches, it's a little easier to set those off. So I think we'll work on those. So they're not going to be normal, hooting and hollering graduations like we've had.
Darn hooting and hollering. There ain't no hooting and hollering in a pandemic. You get a ticket. You can't even cheer, Doc. You can't cheer at a bar.
Cheering can come from the parents, and maybe if they're all live streamed, the cheering can take place.
Golf clap. You said, yeah, way to go. You did it.
I haven't heard the word hooting and hollering in a long
I know.
time.
Where that darn tarnation
Sorry,
hooting
that's
and hollering?
my,
Well, he's from the
that
south.
doesn't come from my Father Duenas background. That's from some other place.
It's because you're from the south, Doc, right? Windward Hills.
Hollering.
I live in Agana Heights.
Oh, I don't know why I thought you were from the south. I guess because you're a florist. So okay, my bad. Take it back.
Filipino florist, remember? It's
All right.
okay. I can still speak Chamorro.
Doc, so in the the promotions, right? So we got, obviously there's the graduations from like high school, but a lot of the lower grade levels, pre-pandemic, it was like every grade they had a promotional ceremony. I didn't mean to sound annoyed by that. But every grade got to do this promotional ceremony. First grade, second grade. Lana, by the time the kids get to 12th grade, they're tired of graduating.
The most significant promotional exercises besides graduation are really kindergarten and 8th grade, right?
Yeah.
Because we have kinder to 8th grade. So, with all due respect to kindergarten teachers, I always chuckle when they ask about having kindergarten promotional exercises because they've been in school for a year, right? But, you know what? If that's what's gonna encourage them, if that's what's gonna get them ready for first grade, and there is a significant difference, I think, between kindergarten and first grade. Although I'm going to be honest, when I went to kindergarten, I thought it was just all playing and taking a nap. I don't remember learning. I'm sure I did learn something because Sister Bridget made sure we did, but I do remember just playing and napping.
Yeah.
And I was probably a very bad child in kindergarten.
Probably. Yeah.
But they do a lot of work in kindergarten, and especially now. I think that the teachers are still working really hard with the students, so maybe they deserve it. Maybe waiting 8 years is too long for them to have a promotion. But I do chuckle. You've been in school for 1 year, you're going to have a promotional exercise. But we'll still support it.
All right.
It's cute, especially when they have caps and gowns, right?
It is cute. You get to take little pictures and all that. Oh, yeah, it's cute. Is there anything else going on?
I know you have the Academy folks on to talk about the reflection, and if you follow some of the schools' Facebook pages or Instagrams, they've been doing a lot of Mes Chamorro stuff. We had a little bit of an ambitious program for Mes Chamorro, but a lot of things got in the way, so we'll probably work on it more next year. One of the things that I tried to focus on this year was to ask the schools to talk about how the Catholic Church and Catholic schools have tried to encourage the use of Chamorro in the schools. And so I know many of them have been doing prayers in Chamorro, and we'll continue to work on that.
Okay.
But, it's a reflective time for Catholic schools because of Holy Week coming up next week. So if you look at Facebook pages again, I think there's a lot of stuff that schools are doing, and I think that's worth paying attention to the spiritual aspects of Catholic schools.
All right. Well, thanks, Juan.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, we'll see you, Doc.
Masi,
9:40.
Happy Easter.
Happy
Easter.